Yeah, why don't you?
I'd like to welcome you all to the Thursday, May 23rd, 2024 meeting of the Bellingham Planning Board. To be repetitive. Rob, can you explain to us what has changed since the last meeting in regards to Zoom?
Sure. So as the board is aware, we had some technical difficulties at the last meeting. As some of the applicants are aware, who were here at the last meeting, we had some technical difficulties. So with that, the select board voted on Monday to basically suspend public participation on Zoom. It's going to be in person. So the Zoom option will only be available for town staff, consultants, and applicants currently. So that way we're not going to have any of the issues that we had
Okay,
last meeting, which I am not going to go into detail with, but.
so again, that was a decision made by the county.
Correct. Yep,
And
that
that
was
impacts all boards.
that. Yes, all boards.
It's not simply impacting the planning.
That is correct. So all boards now are following that procedure.
Okay, thank you. First item on the agenda is the preliminary subdivision plan for 306 Maple Street. Rob, can you give us an update on that?
Sure. So at the last meeting, there was some discussion, or I'm sorry, this is 306 Maple Street. So this is a new preliminary subdivision plan, which the applicant is here. So kind of piggybacking on the conversation that occurred at the last meeting, there was some discussion on just getting some clarification from town council on what exactly can the board do as far as making a decision and how that affects the zone freeze, which is typically, or is what is going on with these applications. So talking to legal counsel, basically submission of the application is what starts the zone freeze. You can approve with modifications or deny with reason, but regardless of the decision, the zone freeze stays, because essentially the preliminary subdivision plan is basically going to be in effect until the definitive subdivision plan gets submitted, which is a 7-month deadline. So there's no requirement for the definitive subdivision, or there's no requirement for an approval of a preliminary subdivision plan in order to approve a definitive subdivision plan. So as I stated in previous meeting for the other application that we'll be discussing next, really, this is just a pre-application meeting in a public forum. That is the whole purpose of this, to give any feedback.
And as I indicated last week, it's procedural.
It is procedural, correct?
It's a mechanism available.
Yeah, it's a legal mechanism that, an applicant could use for free zoning.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, a question on that is, the timing of when they apply for the preliminary, submit the preliminary decision play into what happens here as far as whether or not the bylaw is in.
Yes, so they would have had to have submitted prior to that town meeting where the zoning changed, which they did. That was May 1st, and then April 26th is when this was submitted, timestamped with the town clerk.
Okay, so in general, we won't be receiving the preliminaries that we would receive from today forward would not have the same effect as this one, for example, you already
Correct.
submitted.
Yep, that is correct.
Thank you.
So they met the deadline before.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Can you introduce yourself to the public?
Absolutely. My name is Michael Dryden. I'm a senior project manager with Allen Engineering. Here on behalf of the owner applicant, you all know Andrew Satcher. I think you summarized it very well. I think it's well understood why we're here this evening. Just to clear up anybody maybe in the audience, this is completely independent of the site plan approval application, the development plan approval application that is currently before you. Again, as you had stated, this is clearly just a mechanism to freeze the zoning to preserve the development rights of the plan that is currently before you. So in a nutshell, the site you're all very familiar with, it's 11.5 acres in the industrial district. what we've put forth is a two-lot subdivision with a very short cul-de-sac, about 200 feet in length. This affords frontage and access to two lots, one which is approximately 5.8 acres, the other is 5.4. We have provided all the information that is required in your regulations for a preliminary, as well as what is required in the general law for a preliminary subdivision. So it's really that simple. There's no intention of ever building this project. We do intend to follow this up within 7 months with a definitive to perfect that process, if you will, in order to, again, freeze it only for an 8-year period. And that 8 years would start at such time that definitive is approved. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
I'm just curious, would the definitive plan match the current plan that you're submitting now?
Yes, it'd be the exact same plan. It would just,
Same thing.
it would have a little bit more detail as required for a definitive.
Okay. I don't know.
So you're planning on doing a cul-de-sac with 2 properties or?
No, we're not planning on that. We're just depicting.
Okay, that, I think that was my question.
Yeah,
on that.
again, there's
So-
no intention to build this project.
Okay,
It's
so
the way you see it on the board.
and, okay, so so my input would be, I don't like the cul-de-sac, I don't like the 2 properties. I think you've done what you need to do to move this process along. And I think those would be my comments, but I don't think, they you said you're not gonna build this, so I'm gonna just go from there.
I have nothing to add.
Only thing I have to add for the public is, as outlined earlier, this is a procedural process.
Correct.
We need a mechanism in the event that we say no. We can vote yes or make conditions. I would entertain a motion at this point. Oh, excuse me. Any comments from the public? Seeing none and hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Yeah, my recommendation is you can either approve, you can approve with modifications, or you can deny. I would recommend approving with modifications, and I just had a couple comments if the board wants to hear,
Sure.
just that moving forward prior to the, not prior, but with the resubmittal of the definitive subdivision plan, I would recommend a few items here, which can be drafted into the decision. Applicant to coordinate site access and cul-de-sac width with the Bellingham Fire Department to accommodate emergency apparatus. Applicant to coordinate drainage easement layout with DPW to accommodate basic maintenance access. Recommend the applicant coordinate any plan changes with the Board of Health regarding on-site septic system locations. And then also, which this has already been done as part of the previous project, but I think it would be good to include it here since this is a separate application. But just confirmatory soil testing within limits of proposed basin shall be confirmed as part of the definitive subdivision plan. So those would be my recommendations.
And entertain a motion.
The motion that we approve it with Rob's recommendations.
So I think, yeah, I think the applicant just has a quick question.
If I, just one,
Before I make a motion,
just one quick question on one of the items, the confirmatory soil testing. So will the board accept the testing we already have? We have the exact same basin as with the site plan, so
Correct, it's
versus
the,
additional testing, so make sure I understood.
no, my thought was because the preliminary subdivision plan doesn't have that information, it doesn't have to, it's schematic. I'm just saying that with the definitive plan, to make
Perfect.
sure you include that.
Perfect, understood.
That's all.
Thank you.
Sorry.
entertain a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? I'd like to call for the vote and also for the purpose of attendance.
Dennis, I.
Brian, I.
Bill O'Connell,
Bill Devine, no.
Nick Mobilia, aye.
that motion passes on 4. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Robert. So what's next on the agenda?
Next item on the agenda is another preliminary subdivision plan. Was continued from our last meeting, for WS development. Applicants are here. Do you want me to just give a quick?
Yeah, please,
So,
for the record.
yeah, so for the record, similar situation here, same exact spiel that I gave for the previous preliminary subdivision plan as far as legal input. You can make three decisions, or you have three options for the decision. Approval of this plan does not give anybody, the approval to actually build this. It's really just a pre-application conversation in a public forum. That's all it is procedural, so. That's all I have.
Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
I don't think we have anything to add to the presentation we made at the prior public hearing,
Okay,
so we're happy to answer any questions. I think Rob summed it up quite well.
I have no more comments from the last time.
okay.
The only thing I have to say is that it was not here, but I did go back and rewatch your presentation.
And you fill out documentation?
Absolutely, yeah.
You want to public, no?
No, well, you have any comments?
Just the same question, your definitive submission, if you file one, would be the same, basically the
I
same.
expect right now that it would look very similar, yes.
And your understanding, as was outlined earlier, and was discussed the other night, if you proceed.
Correct.
Okay, and then there's another step coming down the road. That freezes your rights
That's right.
long term. And we discussed that, I think, at great length at our last meeting. There's a public have any comments? Again, I would like to reiterate, what they're doing is a procedural mechanism to freeze the zone on a project that had been approved earlier by the planning board. And it's within their rights to ask for this, and we have to answer in the affirmative or the negative, or make adjustments. So I don't see any questions online. Anyone in the audience? I'd like to call for a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Okay, go ahead. No.
Subject to Rob's prior conditions.
Well,
Yeah.
these have a little bit different. Do you want me to?
Oh, you have more?
Okay, so it's pretty much the same thing, just a little bit different. So recommend these considerations before or during the resubmittal of the definitive subdivision plan. First item, same exact as the previous one, applicant to coordinate site access and cul-de-sac width with the Bellingham Fire Department to accommodate emergency apparatus. Plan shown area for the proposed stormwater management system. More information will be required regarding drainage structures, treatment calcs, and conformance to local and state regulations. And then just the last item is recommend the applicant coordinate any plan changes with the board. Those are my three
Okay,
recommendations.
I'll make a recommendation to approve approval with his recommendations.
conditions, okay.
Yeah.
You have a second? Any discussion?
Yeah, last time we talked about the fact that this was not a plan that we're gonna go forward with, so I'm making that decision based upon that, and the fact that the cul-de-sac is not part of what they would go forward with, so that'll be the reason I vote, and the way I did,
Okay,
so. And for the record, I did vote to approve the WS warehouse as it was, but that's not what this is. And they've reserved their right under what it is, and quite frankly, it's procedural. And if it matched up exactly to what it was in the WS, I'd be going along and approving it. Doesn't.
okay. Call for the vote.
Dennis, I.
Go on.
Bill, no.
Nick, bye.
That motion passes in 4-1 vote. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank
Have a
you.
nice evening.
Congratulations.
Not so quickly, sir. Rob, can you bring us up to speed on, 57 Mendon Street?
Sure.
Is the applicant here?
Yep, representatives here.
Okay.
So it's been a little while since this has been in front of the planning board. I was still the associate member when this was last on. So that was January 3rd. Or, sorry, it was in February 8th was when, this was last in front of the planning board. Where we left off, you know, the applicant can give a quick summary of what they're proposing, but I know there was a fair amount of abutter concerns. I believe that the request was to have an abutter or a neighborhood meeting. I'm not sure if the applicant has decided to do that. I know that the main concern was screening, and then there's also drainage concerns regarding one of the abutters as well. So I don't know if you can speak to that. And
Absolutely.
okay, so, and then one other thing too, we are going to need an extension for the decision deadline, so. And then the other item too is, we were discussing peer review. I think there was some comments that Amy sent just to basically beefing up the stormwater report before it goes out to peer review. As a courtesy to for the applicant. So I don't know where that stands either, so leave it to the applicant to take it away unless, well, Mr. Chair, if you would like the applicant to take it away.
Sir, the floor is yours. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, sir. Bill Housen from Land Planning, representing Jay's firm. We did have a site meeting with, the abutters probably about 2 months ago. Tim and Amy attended as well. Hopefully, we addressed their concerns adequately at the meeting. Since then, and I actually sent an email to Amy probably about a month ago, that at this time, the applicant would like to withdraw the portion of the project that modifies the drainage. And we do want to go forward with the concerns that the town has had, both building and planning departments in the past, regarding capacity of the building and the unregistered vehicles at the site. So our site plan that we drew up, we showed parking sized it up adequately for the uses at the site. And also calculated that the septic system is adequate. Since the approval way back when of this site, it was not just a business at the site, it was partially a business, a blend tech, they had to use cars in a garage, in an apartment. So, and going forward, it's just gonna be Cranes 101 at the site. And the withdrawal on the drainage, I would ask without this.
Excuse me?
On the drainage withdrawal, I would ask if we could withdraw that without prejudice.
Okay.
So. Mind if I take it away?
Absolutely.
So you're looking, I know that the application was to basically where you have the stormwater basin, you wanted to fill that in and basically put an underground system, I believe in lieu of. Yeah, and add another surface basin. So the expansion in the back is now going away. And you're looking at focusing on the building issues. So that's more like a building department.
Yeah,
Or-
yeah, the original issue was with building and planning for quite a couple of years ago.
Okay. Because I think, so you have, and right now you have a development plan review application in front of us and a stormwater management plan permit application in front of us. I don't, are you looking at doing any more work on the outside of the building or?
So at this
Okay.
time, we may revisit the drainage at a later date.
Okay.
But we want to get him up to code essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Well,
So
ask the
last
chair.
time we were here, we heard that your stormwater plan for the site had changed since you were representing the applicant. That it had changed, that there were berms that were taken out, that flooding was coming into neighbors. And you've at this point, I think you voided out the old plan. I asked the question, if they've changed the actual stormwater plan and we've heard testimony here that it's not working the way it is. I don't think we can, I'd ask the question, where do we stand? Because to me, it sounds like the plan that they had that was approved, the system seemed to have issues, but now we got more issues since it was approved.
Correct. So basically, I mean, the application in front of us doesn't currently, I expected it to include remediation for those berms that may have been destroyed or removed, whatever it may be. But correct, I mean, the previous plan did not call for runoff going to the neighbor's site, which has to be fixed.
That's stormwater, right? So
That
there's
is.
a stormwater problem on this site that did not exist when the plan got approved with the stormwater prior.
Correct, and so the stormwater permit that they're going for doesn't include the remedial aspects that came out during the public hearing. So they can withdraw their application, but we're going to make sure that that the applicant fixes those issues.
Can I ask a question? Was there a reason why we would not say, I mean, why would we let them remove it? And if they removed it and we said they could, why wouldn't it be with prejudice? It sounds like we've got an issue here that's been exacerbated by the applicant. And I'm asking this out, I mean, there should be with prejudice, right? If we even allow that, and I'm not sure we should allow that.
Well, no, we're not allowing that.
What I'd like to do, we hear from other members, but I think it's important that the issues that were brought up at the public meeting in February, concerns to the neighbors. I want to make sure that those neighbors are addressed. And how do we get that done?
Correct, and I think if I am not mistaken, I believe the biggest issue was that currently there's flooding occurring on Rose Ave extension, the Whites who are here, on their property, which needs to get fixed. You're correct, that wasn't a part of the previous approval, so that's town staff, that's enforcement that needs to get involved, not necessarily the planning board. That kind of answer your question?
Well, they've got a stormwater, currently right now, they have a stormwater application in front of us. That
Correct.
seems like the perfect mechanism to solve this problem.
Well, they wouldn't be required to submit that if,
They just did. It's already in our hands. We've already got it.
yeah, but that's not the mechanism for this permit. The reason for the permit was because they were basically modifying their previous plan to include a larger stormwater design, like a larger scope.
Okay.
What we're referring to right now is if a berm was taken down and wasn't supposed to be taken down, is causing flooding into a property. If the town found out about that, which they have during this public hearing process, they wouldn't require the applicant necessarily to submit a stormwater permit. It would require them to fix the drainage and basically send out some type of enforcement order. So that's kind of where we're at. So what I think the mechanism is for that would be getting the building inspector involved, because there's items associated with the buildings that need to be fixed, and there's also items with the drainage that need to be fixed, which is the planning office and the zoning and building enforcement office that need to get involved now.
So
No.
enforcement has not happened because we didn't know that it was going to be legitimate.
Correct. It was, my understanding was that this was going to be included as part of you wanted to move forward with your stormwater permit for your basins and the underground infiltration system. And the plans would be revised to include also the berm being fixed. we don't need a stormwater permit and the plan to be revised to require them to fix a berm that's causing issues with flooding onto the adjoining neighbor.
So we can't force them to not withdraw this. I know that's the purpose of this.
Can I? Yeah,
Sure.
go ahead, I can help. We can either allow them to, we can't require them to do anything.
That's what I thought.
So it's either with or without prejudice. With prejudice means they can't come back and ask for the same thing. Your concern, which I think everyone shares, is that the problems that have been identified are corrected. That is through the building department. That's through Rob's office and Tim's office. That the enforcement mechanism, is outside of the purview of the planning board. So we have to decide whether or not it's with prejudice or without prejudice. I don't know why we would do it with prejudice. But your concerns are appropriate, but it's the enforcement of that is with the building department. Does that make sense?
Can I ask a question to the applicant? Go ahead.
If we are going to continue this anyway, would we continue the discussion on the withdrawal of the stormwater process until it is fixed?
There's no stick or carrot here. That all lives in that office over there. This is just a decision to let their prior application, which we can't make them go forward on, die on the vine and they can come back, or it dies on the vine and they can't come back for a while.
Let me ask another question to Rob. Have you quickly reviewed the prior stormwater approval that was done?
I have not.
You know how far back it went?
Early 2000s, maybe. And certainly standards have changed. And I really want to make sure the board knows that the applicant does intend to do the stormwater, just not now. That is the intention. We've had those discussions.
So you anticipate being back in front of us.
And
Yes.
regardless of the intentions
I
of
understand.
fixing, or regardless of the intentions of moving forward with the stormwater application that was submitted to us. And if the applicant intends to, is going to intend to fix the berm, it doesn't really matter because the town is going to force the applicant to fix that berm if it's causing flooding onto an abutting property. I would say that
What's the time frame on that?
well, the only reason why the town hasn't moved on that was because there's the active application and we thought that was going to be covered with the application. Also, I haven't even been in my office for 3 weeks yet, so, but this will just be added to the list to make sure that it gets taken care of. ASAP.
Sooner than later.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Without prejudice makes it more difficult for them to correct the problem, because they can come back with a new plan and say, here's our new plan, and we're gonna fix the old problem, and we're also gonna do this new plan.
No.
When you open it up to the public, if you do,
I
I'd like to hear how often it gets flooded.
I plan to. Any other comments from the board? I have some reservations. I want to hold my questions until we hear from the. But I want you to know, I think you listen to the input of the board, the input of the residents, the input of the director. And we're gonna want to solve rather quick. And we think it's imperative for the neighbors. But short of that, I'd like to hear from the neighbors and any other abutters. So I'm gonna open up to the public. Gentlemen, his hand raised. No, I'll get back, give it a second. Yes, sir.
Mike White, 84 Rose Ave Extension. My property abuts the said property right there. And
We saw you before, sir.
yes.
And thank you for coming back.
Yep, heavy rains, we get runoff right down through the asphalt parking lot, which originally had, I think you can probably see it on those old plans, there was they call it a Cape Cod berm, which is asphalt berm kind of around this area. That was wiped out one day so that he could use the area on the other side as a training yard for the cranes. And with that berm gone, there's runoff in coming in on the heavy rains, there's runoff coming right into my backyard. It's a low area, it's the far back side of my property that catches it all. And I don't usually see it, but it was real heavy rain, and so I was out checking my pool, the overload, and I seen it coming down. Knowing it's raining, I'm not gonna go out there and hang out.
Of
in it.
course.
Yeah, and so, yeah, in heavy rains, I get the runoff right down through the parking lot into my backyard.
Can I ask a question, sir? I assume it's pretty consistent in the same path.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Anything else you want to add?
No,
Gentleman in the back,
My name's Chuck Willie. I live at 68 Rosette Extension.
I believe you were at the last meeting as well.
I was, yes. I don't think I spoke at the last.
Do you both participate in the meeting with the applicant
Yes,
on site?
on site.
yes.
Thank you for doing it.
If it rains more than a day, I have usually a puddle the size of this room in my backyard.
Okay,
It can go up to an inch to 2 inches deep if it's really raining heavy.
all right.
And then it runs off and it goes into my neighbor's town.
Right.
That's gotta get fixed.
I'm
It's been going on since the project was originally stopped.
Okay,
It hasn't, there's a tank buried underneath the retention pond. There's a pipe coming out of the tank with gravel over it. And on a real wet day, you can watch the water flowing out of that tank.
okay. Anyone else from the public? Any other questions from the board? Dennis, you visited the site, correct?
I visited, yeah, made recommendations before. And there was a lot of stuff I seen that, I don't know, what is the scope of what you plan on doing now? With you coming to us with tonight for improvements on the building?
Building certainly is the building department.
Yeah.
But we're looking at parking and also can Jay have unregistered vehicles at the site? Yes, he uses them in an educational purpose and they're not vehicles that would normally be registered.
Parking, what do you elaborate a little more on parking?
We sized up the parking for the use of the site.
Yeah.
Make sure there's adequate parking for the current use. That had not been done before.
The existing parking paved now?
Yeah, yes, all the parking on the existing pavement,
All right, you're gonna direct any more water flow from what you're improving?
not changing the pavement.
And the building's gonna be brought up to handicapped?
That'd be a building department, but
Yeah.
yes, Jay actually does have handicap entrances current. For both the main building up front and the classroom building just behind them. And they're actually denoted on the,
When do you plan on fixing the berm, since you're quite aware of it?
well, Jake.
I don't know what the holdup is there, that's all.
Yeah, I think there was only one small section and it was where the abutter had said. There's also an earthen berm there too, that should block a bunch of the water anyway. But we'll take a look at that, so that we can do that with the building department.
All right. Yeah,
So is there anything left of your current application that would be before us?
Just those items other than the drain.
So park, the number of spaces?
Yeah.
Okay, and that, what is that kind of application?
It was just on the development plan. And we showed all the calculations on the plan for the parking and loading.
And that, because the development plan approval gets tripped with land disturbance, so really it was the stormwater improvements that tripped the development plan review, so technically even the parking wouldn't, but that would be yet another building and zoning enforcement issue, because if they're doing improvements to the building and then they're gonna have to meet the zoning requirements associated with parking as well.
so can I just infer something? By removing this. Now, let me rephrase it. By his initial application. There are several tripwires, so to speak, that put things in place. By removing it said application. Those trip lines are no longer tripped because they're being removed.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain thresholds that require an applicant to submit a certain application. So for development plan review, it's the square footage of disturbance that's proposed. And then for the stormwater management plan, it's the design of that stormwater management system.
Okay.
So what may occur, because there's apparently some issues with some stormwater on site, my office and Tim's office will most likely be contacting you in the near future to figure out the best way to move forward with not necessarily expanding your operations, which is what your proposal is here, but to fix the current stormwater issues in your current footprint. That is what would need to happen,
That's what I want.
which may require a different stormwater application, but, that it would be different than what's proposed essentially. Does that kind of answer your question?
Well, the question I guess I have is, we heard about the berm, now we're hearing about a pipe. I think this pipe is the first time we've heard about this pipe. Is the pipe part of the stormwater process? Will you comment on what he's talking about right now with the pipe coming out that's flooding into the yard?
Well, there's always been an outlet from the stormwater basin since it was put in. And it was designed per the regulations in place at the time. So water has always flown downhill from the site. And it was mitigated before by having the above ground basin that's been there for 15, 20 years.
So it sounds like this system's not working, right?
Because the burn's no longer there.
The berm's no longer there, but you also get a pipe situation. It sounds like it's flooding out also. The berm is one issue. We're hearing about a pipe situation. Can I ask the?
Tim has pictures of all of it, or he should. I gave him pictures of it.
And when we,
Is
yes,
this pipe issue newer, or is it
No,
back to day one?
Since the work was originally done, and
And this is happening more than once a month type of thing?
when we get a solid day of rain or more,
Not 100-day storm, it was not.
no, not a 100-day storm, just a
Normal
day
storm.
long of fairly heavy rain.
can
And
I ask you questions? This pipe obviously has been there based on the first stormwater program they put in place. When the berm was in there, did you have any flooding?
the berm is up at the top of the property. It's never affected me.
Okay. How about the
When
berm in
the
the back?
parking lot was changed, when the parking lot was changed in the retention pond was put in, I had Tim out at the property. He has pictures, we have pictures. There's on the side of the hill, 6 feet from my property, there's a big round pile of gravel. Behind that is where the pipe is, and I can see water flowing out of that when we have bigger rain.
Just to be clear, how long ago was Tim on site that you showed that to him?
When the project.
Within
stopped.
this year,
When the project originally stopped.
this calendar year,
No,
several years
no,
back,
2000.
2000, yeah. I'm sorry, could you say that louder?
The pictures I took were 2017, when he started the cutting and rebuilding and putting everything that's not supposed to be there, I take it.
So doing all that other stuff affected the pipe situation and the water coming onto your property. Is that what? I'm hearing this for the
Yes.
first time. So I'm
So
trying to-
a tank was buried when the project was going on originally, when the Hiawatha project was going on. The tank was buried in the back, and that's when I called Tim. And I said, what's going on with this tank? So he came down, he saw it. He went up and he talked to the operator of the excavator and told him to stop doing what they were doing. I don't know after that, I don't know what happened, but that's just, as I recall it, that's exactly how it went, and I've been living with it for a while now, and I've heard that he was supposed to fix, it was supposed to be fixed. And so I don't know if it's on the planning board or if it's on the building department, I don't know.
At this point, sir, he had a plan correct me if I'm wrong, to resolve it.
That's what I'm hearing.
Well, the plan was to expand the back portion, because where the basin was, they were gonna do underground and make another basin.
Yes,
That was the application, and part of that, they had a stormwater design that, well, it never got peer reviewed, and I know the stormwater report, I think, needed some more information, I think, to get to that point to peer review, but yeah, the point was to improve the stormwater management system to handle the additional area. So what, just to be clear, it was not purely to remediate these issues.
I
I know,
understand.
but now we're digging into, you had another comment, sir?
Yeah, if he's gonna expand his flat area up there and it's all gonna go into the retention pond that's there now, it's gonna make it worse.
Correct, and
So if it's not getting fixed, it's not gonna get better.
correct, and so the application in front of us, which was to expand, you're requesting a withdrawal. Correct. To not expand. But then, Phil, I think what you're getting at is the issue of the existing stormwater concerns on site.
Yeah, the issue is the stormwater, the approved stormwater system has been taken down, and now we've got an issue where we have two neighbors having issues, being flooded, okay? To me, that's, either it needs to be rectified now, and I don't know whether this board is the board to do it, whether the applicant can say, hey, I'm gonna take temporary steps to keep the neighbors from flooding now, while they work with you guys in the town offices to make this done, but you get neighbors getting flooded. I mean, to me, that's. What can you do? What can you do to fix this now?
That's something we're gonna be looking into, like we discussed, we wanna come back with that at a later date.
Well, is there any temporary steps that you can take to keep the neighbor from being flooded the next time it rains?
Well, the existing basin's actually been expanded a little bit. Jay had done some work out there. He had it, he got approved with the Conservation Commission, was it? So the basin is actually bigger than it was originally.
But it's still flooding.
You've taken down, okay, so right now you've taken down a berm, you're flooding out a neighbor, and I'm asking you, what can you do temporarily to solve the problem so the neighbor's not flooding? That's what I'm asking. And it sounds like we're saying nothing.
If you put up a berm, now all that water that's going into the neighbor's lot is stuck in your parking lot. Where's that water gonna go? And then can the drains handle that one?
Yeah, and that's why we need to re-engineer the site. But I think it's also important to know that any stormwater system is gonna have an outlet and water is going to run out of it and it's storm.
I agree with you. However, it's important to know the comments I made a few moments ago about, the tripwires. By doing this, you're removing those tripwires. Before going further, one in the front had you hand raised.
No, no, please, mine is about the parking, it can wait, this is more.
I think,
Question.
I want to make sure the neighbors' concerns are addressed.
I
And I don't
agree.
want to wait for their
Well, I think,
proposal.
yeah, because the mechanism would be either to, I think what the board is trying to say is they would request that you don't withdraw your application and keep it and come back with this. We can continue this to a later date and look, we can continue it to however long you need to address this, but it should be addressed. The plan should start getting created. The analysis should be done ASAP.
Understood. That would be up to my applicant to make that decision, but it would be a while to get all that engineering completed.
So without the engineering though, we've got a neighbor being flooded. What can we do to solve the problems of the neighbors being flooded now?
Certainly where the berm is, it is slightly broken down behind the office area. Jay could replace that plate by berm.
Is that something you're willing to do now?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay,
And I have a question, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I want to try to get maybe to the heart of the issue. You met with the neighbors. They expressed their concerns to you. And what was the response from the applicant? How did we resolve those concerns? Okay. We've heard now in two separate meetings that we have neighbors who have flooding. I do think a mechanism would be for you, I certainly don't want to tell you what to do. But the director indicated that if you withdraw your process, I would like to have a temporary fix put in to address those neighbors and have a design plan long-term
Correct. There
At
needs
some
to be
point.
an evaluation of
to
the
address those
system,
neighbors.
but
And I can probably feel pretty comfortable in saying that the building inspector will probably be at your location fairly quickly based on tonight's meeting. I also suspect that perhaps neighbors may call the appropriate department, not that they know who to call for enforcement. So I think the question comes down to, do you want to withdraw your request?
or you, do you want to take a few minutes to talk outside? Maybe?
You can make a brief recess.
Well, maybe we can take a general discussion item.
Can it, actually, Rob, whether they extend it or not, does that change how the building department will handle this either way?
No, where the enforcement lies in town staff right now. It's not.
Either way,
What you're-
whether it's extended or not. whether
Correct.
they
Well,
remove it.
what you're trying to do right now is the board is to not have the application withdrawn, keep the application open, but revise it to include really just the remediation.
And have it fixed temporarily now,
That's what I just
if that's exactly what we're talking about.
Correct. I mean, the
Or
temporary
restated.
now is going to have to also, the driving force is town staff enforcement.
Okay,
So-
so it doesn't, either way we handle it,
So
right
that's-
now would not stop that enforcement tomorrow or the next day or the next. Day.
Correct. So
Okay,
that's
what I wanted to make sure.
I mean,
that's what I'm trying to
Okay.
make clear is that
Thank
the planning board can do what they can, and I understand your approach, but
it's
even if
another
they,
department.
I agree.
Now, the applicant suggested we're also obligated to address the unregistered vehicles. Is that?
That is not a planning board item, that is building. Oh, the items that are addressed or that the applicant has just mentioned, the ones that are open, they're building department. They would not be in front of us for an application. So that's why if they want to withdraw, I would recommend that, you grant the withdrawal and then unless they want to indefinitely or immediately look at the drainage and keep this application open. But even then, they're probably going to be required to come back in front of us with a stormwater permit that isn't going to include the expansion of their yard. It would be for the long-term fixes for the stormwater system.
Now, I want to ask a question, which the board members and maybe the public. I recall something someone saying to me, and it actually might have been you, that you want to remove a tree in an area. You want to remove a tree in an area that was being flooded out or something.
Yeah, that wasn't me.
Now, there was something,
There's no plan to remove any trees.
okay. All right,
And that's part of the expansion. And once again, we're getting rid of the expansion,
okay,
looking at
fine.
fixing, that's what we're discussing right now is fixing the existing stormwater structures with the limits of their impervious area as is now.
Okay,
Where do the continuances stand right now? When do we need to have decisions made on this as it stands prior to? I know you mentioned earlier we need extensions
Yeah, we would need one tonight to
to keep moving on either one of these.
correct. So that's why,
I think,
I would,
I think we have two decisions that we have to make. The first one is an answer from the applicant. If he's withdraw his request.
To withdraw, yes.
I know it's again, a horrible sentence. And then, based on that, we make a vote on whether that action. And also, we need to do a continuance to make sure that number one, it gets resolved through the building department, which is separate. But a continuance long enough, so if something else has to come in front of us, it's covered by the continuance. I know it sounds very confusing, but the trigger is his ability to withdraw the withdrawal. And then there's no need to take an action on withdrawal. He will deal with the building inspection. We'll vote on a continuance, and based on information from the director, we may have something in front of us prior to the continuance that addresses this long-term and short-term. Short-term being building, long-term being your application. Is that in a nutshell?
It was very lengthy and complicated, I think so.
Not in a nutshell.
Yeah,
Okay. Sorry,
so I think,
you probably want to go longer.
I don't really wanna, I'd say we probably wanna
No.
keep this moving, so it's really up to the applicant, either withdraw the withdrawal, or we need to make a motion
Yep.
on the request to withdraw, is basically what it comes down to.
Well, I could ask a question. Before I make any decision. Is it, do I understand it right, that no matter what I do, the objective of this committee is to ensure that I don't expand my park?
No, we're
You
talking
can
about
say-
stormwater management.
I understand that. Is the committee's opinion that no matter what, I should not expand my parking regardless of stormwater management?
That was never stated.
No,
We don't know anything about your new parking arrangement.
Well, the parking is when I upgrade from the original stormwater program that we have now to a new one. So if we're going to apply for an upgrade to stormwater, I have already gone to the expense of adding a second retention pond to the original one. In order for the water to get down the hill from my property, it has to overcome the original retention pond that was put in and go into the second one and overcome that one as well. So I think that we have to look very hard at, is there not enough retention pond that can be built that can handle the stormwater? And before I go forward, I want to hear somebody say, no, absolutely. If you want to improve your property and the stormwater at the same time, which is my goal and objective, then that's possible to do right here and now. Let's put it on record. And if that in fact is the case, then I say we continue.
So there's no way that we could, sitting here, know at all how that either the drainage works and what a system may or may not do, and what the existing one does and may not.
you don't have enough information.
Right, so we can't give you any guarantees, but I think what we're asking of you, I think what I hear from the board is, we really would like for the immediate problems to be resolved as quickly as possible. It sounds like there's gonna be some sort of enforcement. Sounds like that enforcement might trigger something when you come back to us to save you the trouble of filing a new filing fee. Why don't we just sort of sweep it up into this current one and let's get the ball rolling? So if that's something, I mean, that's all we can do tonight, really. So.
Might I just add to that?
Yeah.
So the application that you submitted, which was to expand your stormwater operations to be in compliance, I don't think there was any discussion about, we didn't even get to any point to really get it reviewed, because that was the next step to get it peer reviewed.
Right.
So, you know, there's nobody has said on the record that they were interested in denying that. It didn't even, we haven't even got enough information to review it.
First time heard about parking, you see.
So that's why I recommend, if you're looking at doing this in the future, there's some serious issues now with drainage. You already have a lot of the drainage analyzed, at least for pre-existing conditions. I would highly recommend as town staff continue forward. It's gonna make it a much easier process, I think, for you, rather than us butting heads with each other with town staff, with enforcement. This is a much more streamlined process to keep the application moving. We can meet to discuss the exact stormwater management issues that were emailed to get this back on the right track. But the issue is that there's some flooding offsite. We have to look at that. So I think, to your point, Brian, keep the application going, and that would be the most streamlined process to get, I think, both your expansion and your stormwater management system taken care of as a whole. You don't want to fix one thing and in the future potentially look at an expansion to the parking. So that's.
Okay, I'll put my best foot forward again. I've already been this road once, you understand that, right? I came in front of the Conservation Commission who approved the original plan that I went and spent an awful lot of money and time building. Which I'm amazed that any water can get down, fill it all with all the expansion that we have, but 100% on board with making it right.
Okay.
Right, and then as my first gestures, I'll put in a berm. I just hadn't gotten to it, and I get some rain beating. So I know what I need to do to make that work. But when I put the berm in, it's gonna be at the middle of the property. It's gonna divert whatever water does make it to that berm into the retention pond. I can't imagine it's gonna matter that much as far as volume is concerned. Right. Right.
Yeah, we can just meter the outlet. We can control how much comes out.
Yeah.
Which you do in the pond as it exists, as a metering device.
Yeah, so it's not, you can't possibly make it, a hill of beans a different system what goes into the retention pond. But it'll definitely keep the, water going in the right direction from the front line.
So in that case, I think what you've just mentioned is the route that I think the planning board would want to go into. So you're looking at withdrawing your withdrawal, and then we can get a continuance to a later date so you can work on addressing these concerns?
I'll accept that double negative, yes.
Can I ask what's reasonable with the steps you just took about fixing the berm?
With the
What
berm?
reasonable time?
I would say within the week. I just,
It would, that's, to me, within the week, certainly, I don't know. To me, that sounds reasonable. I'm seeing a neighbor shake his head yes.
Yep.
And another neighbor saying, shaking their head yes. So a week, I appreciate you willing to take the steps to put temporary things in place to resolve this.
Is that just address one of the neighbors or?
One
is
of the
there-
two, yeah. And the other issue with the pipe would probably be a longer term.
That's gonna be involved when we start looking at the basins.
Yes.
And that's why I would, that's gonna be a much larger analysis, and that's why I would like to keep this open so we can move forward
is
rather.
there a volume control or a meter like he says you can do to that access of water leaving?
Yeah, you can do outlet control structures, but that's gonna be part of the hydraulic analysis with the HydroCAD, so. This will be looked at,
And what we're doing tonight would not interfere with town staff making sure the situation is reasonable.
Yeah,
Going forward without problems.
correct. I think that
Okay.
if this is the route you want to take, I think we should open up the line of communication with town staff, myself and Tim. We can talk to you. We can figure out the berm issue first and get everything on the right track as far as analysis and making sure that the flooding issue in the back is taken care of as part of this application, which overall, that is already going to be looked at as pre versus post-development drainage calcs and stuff.
But yeah, we allow preconditions
Yep.
today, whatever it is.
Yeah, and so that's gonna be looked at.
Does the
So-
precondition count the berm that was taken out? That's one thing that
No, because
peer
that's,
review.
so the berm was damaged, so it's gonna cause, you know, a different drainage flow path than what was approved. So that's why that.
Water leaving the site. I'm
Correct.
Sure, we don't want
So-
that one, that's not pre-existing, that's been changed since the approval. We'll let you guys figure out.
Yeah,
But that mathematical calculation, the engineers will make sure that the problem's resolved.
so,
Thank you.
We, see officially withdrawn,
what was that?
I see officially withdrawn, this withdrawal.
I believe that is,
It was a.
yep, so,
We don't
with,
need an action on it.
no,
Okay.
But
But we do need an action on continuance.
So I
yeah.
think Rob's gotta get a peer review in place and pick a date to come back.
Yeah, what I would recommend is we can figure out what's needed prior to the peer review to make sure that this is taken care of. The other item would be the continuance, which, how about maybe the second meeting in June, the June 27th? It doesn't necessarily have to be done by then, but
Yeah,
an
we're
update.
looking at a few months in order to get this wrapped up correctly. And I
Okay,
don't want to sell ourselves short. Let's do a good job.
What do you consider a few months? 'Cause bear in mind, sir, we only meet once a month in July and August. So are you thinking September?
I think September is reasonable.
Okay,
why don't we do August, and then that way, if it's not done by then, we can at least just get a little bit of an update on where you stand.
Okay, we certainly will have talked at that point.
Exactly, yeah, and we'll be talking well before August, but that would be
Yeah,
ideal.
because we have a bunch of work to wrap this up,
Okay,
so I want to make sure we get it done.
so this is the form for the continuance request. I'm gonna do a continuance for August 8th and then an extension deadline. I'll do August 9th, if that works. Give you time to work things through. That work? Okay?
Well, let's get an update certainly with where we, hopefully we're done.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, you know, you can request another continuance after the August 8th meeting if need be. All right?
Can I make a suggestion? I don't want to make this any more longer than it needs to, but if August 8th is just simply an update, there's no way there's a decision's gotta be rendered. Let's bump the decision deadline to something more reasonable.
You want to do it to,
90 days from there.
then we have a meeting, October 24th. You want me to do October 25th?
yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
That gives us enough wiggle room, so to speak. That gives you enough time.
Doesn't keep progress from happening, and are we planning on having back in August or?
Yes, we are.
They have to do their calculations. That needs to be peer reviewed.
Yep.
And peer reviews in the summer take even longer than they are right now. So for the public, just to let you know, we'll be taking a vote to continue this for two days to come in, our meeting, first only meeting in August, August 8th. And then until, October, what was the date?
25th for the extension.
In the interim, they will develop plans, as you heard from the owner, within a week to address the flooding issues on your front. Do you have any other questions before we take a motion for the continuance? Yes, ma'am.
And I'm sorry to rehash this because I know everything's continued. The flooding is the priority, but I thought when we were here in March, we had asked Jay about the fact, why would he need more parking if he wasn't expanding his classes or his training? And I agree, I didn't hear much at the site visit about the parking. What is the need for the parking if we're not expanding? I'm just confused about that, I'm sorry.
There was no intention of expanding parking. It's the work area in the back. There'd be no additional parking.
Okay, I thought I heard that. Again, sorry.
So you're just gonna reconfigure the parking or?
No, parking would be as it sits. And he was just looking to have a larger area in the back of the site to set up cranes for training.
Does a larger area mean you would clear land, clear anything?
No,
How would you get the
Pretty
larger?
much what's already cleared. There's no trees pending to come down. The intention is because we have the above ground detention area, it takes up space. And he wanted to have additional room to set up the cranes by putting the detention area underground. That's what it was about.
One other issue that I think, I'm not brushing this aside, but gets kind of in that direction. Is that, Rob, maybe we need to check with town council about, and I think we brought this up before, and I don't remember the answer. Is that, if I remember correctly, the cranes are non-registered vehicles on those sites, and they were, I think you were saying they were training tools. And how does that play in with our bylaws and what we would be doing?
Well, I
Because
think,
Did we hear, I think we had asked, I don't know if we've heard back on that, or whether that's a zoning issue or not. But I think that was part of what was going on here, and goes to your question, was that they were training tools, and if that's training tools, and if it's standard in the industry, what our town council would say to that might be reasonable to hear before August.
yeah, and I think that's before August, we can get an answer. And I
And you're
just
quite
jotted it
I
down,
think that's
So,
important.
sure.
So I think that goes to your, what you're trying to do, right? And then part of the concern maybe that you have, and I'm seeing two neighbors shaking their heads, yes.
Not a lot of
Let's see what
coverage.
happens.
I mean, picture the business in between, as you know, two residential streets, don't want to belabor this, but there's not a lot of fencing and protection. It's like everything is very visible. So the questions we have, when we hear expanding, that sounds like it's more than I guess what they're saying, but I did hear expansion, so thank you. Yeah, your point is good, but these cranes are coming up right between two residential neighborhoods. There's not a lot of fencing. I haven't heard that we're getting a fence or fencing will be, there's a broken fence, one is toppled, which Amy addressed, I think, at our site walkthrough, but it's not a very pretty area, and it's not just the flooding, it's the aesthetics of, you've got cranes, you've got business vehicles, and we all see that, and some of it's coming into our properties.
What we will do is go back and resurrect the notes that Amy had from the site walkthrough.
Yeah,
Which was helpful. We appreciate that they did it. Thank you. I mean, that was good that everyone agreed to that. It's just there were some things brought up there.
All right, and then to add to what Phil said, I think we feel comfortable knowing that these training aids are actually being used as training aids and not essentially just abandoned vehicles that are sitting there with no purpose.
Yeah, how many vehicles are unregistered on your property?
Maybe 4.
Maybe 4? How are you gonna address those issues? Are you removing them?
well, I think that's where town council is figuring out with zoning and such, so.
Yeah, like if somebody put a for sale sign on those trucks, it'd be in violation. Okay, so you couldn't have 4 trucks trying to sell 4 trucks there. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get to is where the town council is that reasonable? I mean, how does it fit in with the bylaws is where I'm trying to get to. And I know you're not trying to do that, but where legally do we stand?
I
on this,
understand.
is what I'm trying to
We're,
figure out.
we're the only training company of our type in Bellingham. We're one of 2 in Massachusetts. So I understand there's no real precedent set in Bellingham, Massachusetts.
It's not something we come bumped up against here in the board, I don't.
I get it.
It's my
The state doesn't have any training facilities?
But they do have a mechanism for training facilities. It's called the Dover Amendment, passed probably in the 50s or so. There's certain stuff that a town can allow, is expansion of their zoning a little bit for training.
And for educational.
Yes, yeah.
Let's see how that falls in there.
Yeah,
And if you have information on that you'd like to submit to Rob, I think that might help the situation.
I agree,
Yeah.
but we also have I believe, a note.
Yeah, I would recommend it. It sounds like we're,
Right there.
look at that. All right, and here, would you mind? That's for the,
Dennis, what is your motion?
Rob, I don't. I'll move it.
Continuation day to
August 8th.
August 8th and decision deadline
Sorry.
to October 9th.
That's perfect. Yes, August 8th and extension deadline to October 25th.
Okay,
So,
Second.
call for the vote.
inside.
Brian, I.
Bill, on.
Bill,
Nick, I.
The motion passes unanimously. Those residents, please come back in August. If you have any questions, submit them to the Director of Planning and Engineering or hold them for the meeting in August. But I want to thank you all for coming. Sir, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you.
That was a lot longer than I expected. That's good, though. We're moving somewhere.
Continuation hearing on Maple Street, assessors map 37, lots 3 and 3A.
Want an update?
Please.
So applicant's here, applicant's counsel is here, sorry for the delay. I believe there were quite a few comments that were brought up at the last hearing. I believe
Is that 0 Maple Street?
this is 0 Maple Street,
Okay.
correct? So the engineers here as well, Shane Oates. We did receive updated plans just this afternoon based off of those comments. I don't believe the applicant has any interest in hearing, not any interest, but they're not here to get any comments from the board since it was such, a sudden submission. It's more of just to present the information and then we'll be able to take a look. And then this is what's going to be submitted for peer review, which we have the peer reviewer lined up. They just wanted to get updated plans since I urged to get soil testing conducted prior to the peer review. They'll go over the edits quickly, but that's, I think, essentially what's happening.
Well, yours.
Great, thank you. Rob stole my thunder, but I'm happy to have him do it.
Introduce yourself.
Sure, Brian Falk, attorney for the applicant, which is Maple Street Development LLC. And with me on the screen is Shane Oates, our engineer. I don't know, are you able to promote Shane to panelists or presenters? So we get the
Sure.
plans fired up.
Shane, you're unable to share your screen.
Yep, so far I am.
Karen, are you there? I have to text her.
When we were before you on April 25th, that was our first appearance. We presented our plans. We got feedback from the board and we also received comments from the fire chief on a couple of different issues. So the changes that Shane's going to walk you through once we get the plans fired up are responsive to those comments in terms of fire access around the building, the overall layout of the site. So there we go. Plans are up, so.
Shane, the floor is yours.
Floor is yours, Shane.
Good evening, everyone. Shane Oates with Independence Engineering in Middleborough, Massachusetts. Yeah, so we had a small laundry list of comments we received from the board and the fire chief. And over the past few weeks, we have been addressing the majority of them. So I'll quickly go through the plans that were just submitted to Rob and Amy this afternoon. We're going to get plans to the peer review engineer and hopefully start working with them at the beginning of next week. So first off, just wanted to remind the board, I touched on it really briefly in April, but we will be requesting one waiver for a reduction in parking. The required parking based on square footage of our building and use is 38 spaces. We are proposing 27 spaces total. And to be quite honest, based on the anticipated tenants, that will be much more than they'll need, but that's what our current layout allows us to do. So just that quick reminder. So just going to go through
to the plans where some revisions were made for everyone to see. So the first one, which was a result of comments from the fire chief regarding emergency vehicle access around the building. Our building has shrunk a little bit from 19,525 down to 18,960. And what necessitated that change is a couple of items. The first of which you can see here, the access ways. These are still one way in. Now it's 20 feet as opposed to 15, and 20 feet coming out as opposed to 15. So that was the first change that we made. Another change that Rob actually suggested and was concerned about was the retaining wall was basically about 1.5 feet off the property line in this northwest corner of the site. Now it's just under 4 feet, so we kind of scrunched everything together a little bit. Now that there's almost 4 feet there, that wall will be much easier to install without worrying about encroachment into the right-of-way for Route 495. We've highlighted bollards. I'll zoom in here a little bit too. So these are our access doors out back for each tenant. So we have some bollards for the proposed access man doors. We have some bollards here at the small retaining wall for the loading facility, a couple here, and then there's some bollards as well. These are overhead doors for vans, small vehicle access. And then obviously we have bollards at the rear corners of the building as well. So those have been added. Another comment from the fire chief we addressed was we've got some paint line striping, fire lane, no parking. This will keep vehicles from stopping in front or at the rear of the building. So that was included. Also on this plan, we've done a quick analysis for site distance. That was a concern. So this is based on proposed topography coming out of the driveway on either one and based on the topography of Maple Street. And they're both in excess of 250 feet. So there is more than plenty proposed site distance as a result of this. So those are basically the layout changes. I'll just zoom out again. This plan was cleaned up a little bit as well. The next plan, so what we have done last week was we went out on site per Rob's request, and we knew we would have to do it anyways. We did a couple of test holes out in the rear subsurface infiltration area. And we did a second hole in the front subsurface area as well. We were able to get to the appropriate depths of suitable material, which will allow us to achieve our 4 feet separation so that we can attenuate our peak flows. The only other change here is that we had these 2 proposed trench drains. They were routed out to the rear. We lifted this system up a little bit just because we could. This system stayed the same, so now we are just routing those trench drains into the front storm scepter. So again, that will have cleaning capabilities for any type of oil and sediment prior to going into the infiltration facility as well. As far as utilities, we have added a fire hydrant right here to the south of the site per the fire chief's request. We still have not looped the water system. We wanted to discuss that a little bit more because these services are around 100 feet each. We're not sure that looping the system would be quite as appropriate as a much larger industrial building, but we're definitely willing to discuss that in more detail with the chief. We'll have an offline conversation with him. The only other changes, let's see. Get to it. So landscaping, I just wanted to touch on this again. So I had a quick discussion with Rob last week, and what we're going to do eventually, before we're done, we're going to add some more mature tree plantings here, and we're going to provide the board with a front elevation view so that you'll be comfortable with these loading areas and the lack of visibility from Maple Street. So based on the grades, because we're coming up a few feet, coming up multiple feet here and a couple of feet on the right side entrance. We're gonna add some more mature trees to these front landscape areas so that basically these two loading facilities will be completely screened. So that's forthcoming as well. This will be submitted to the town. This is our turning template for the fire apparatus that we were sent over. So the 20-foot wide roads and modified radii allow full circulation within the site. And then the last change we did was we're showing our proposed wall packs / security lighting here. And we've provided this photometrics plan as well as some contours for foot candles that show that there's no trespass of any of this lighting off-site at all. That was basically it. That is, we think we've captured all of the board's questions and concerns from our first meeting. So if there's any additional questions, I am happy to answer.
I don't think we have any right now, because we've not had a chance to review this.
Sure.
Yeah.
Fairness to the board.
If the board can ask any questions that they want, I would recommend that, this is gonna be going to peer review. That was the purpose of the edits. So it might be helpful to get the peer review done, and then we can maybe have a more robust discussion once that comes in once everybody has a chance to even review the plans. But I mean, it's up to the board.
I
have questions now.
But just a couple quick points. I would also be interested in seeing what the screening will be for the view from 495. What that might look like, maybe an elevation would help us.
From 495 or to 495?
From 495.
Oh, okay.
And with regard to the entrance and exits, they're both ins and outs. And I'm wondering if there should only be one, in that when you come over Maple Street, over the bridge going over 495, that first entrance is going to come up pretty quickly. And I understand you expanded the sight line, but if we're having ins and outs in both of those, that seems like a lot of entry points for such a small space.
Yeah, we're just trying to give vehicles maneuverability, and also to access these front spaces, which we think will be mostly utilized by the employees, and they'll go in through these overhead doors. But we also wanted to make sure there's room for a van or a box truck to kind of pull in here, back up into the loading dock. Same here. So.
Well, I think worst case scenario is a truck exiting the property and a car comes over 495, and you can build up some speed as you go over 495. The speed limit actually speeds up at that point. So
yeah,
truck coming out and suddenly you see it and you have to, I'm concerned about that. So and in the prior, for other similar facilities in that area, we've asked the applicant to construct the exits to discourage left-hand turns and to encourage right-hand turns. And I understand that this scale of this facility is much smaller than the other facilities, but I would like to also see that somehow incorporated into the egress that you come up with.
Well, I can discuss that with the applicant. Obviously, I just know based on his current facilities and flow, this is something that, he's kind of found out works best for these sites, is to, like, these are also 40-foot wide entryways. They're not like typical 24 or 25 feet that we might see. So he's asked to have that additional maneuverability. We also, I know what you're talking about coming over 495 with the speed limit, but there is over 250 feet of sight distance. So that should be plenty of time to get out, regardless of what turn you're making. But again, I'll speak with him about it.
Yeah, because I think that I know for sure that's something I would like
to be part of this plan, so I would encourage the applicant to incorporate some of these suggestions into his plan.
And that's something we'll address probably down the road.
Yeah,
Just to clarify your earlier comments, the two bays in the front on either side, those for box trucks, size trucks, or we're not talking tractor trailers, right?
No, based on the ability to move in here, it's really box truck type deliveries. It's, you know, you have a 12-foot wide, only 25-foot long dock. So these are more for similar to what we were discussing at the previous hearing. These are really going to be trades type tenants, which won't you won't have that requirement of large vehicles on site. So.
And certainly not to get ahead of ourselves, but we can address that down the road as a condition.
Sure.
Yeah, and to me, that sounds like a good condition to have in there, is those two. I mean, that's my concern, is you can't put a tractor trailer loading dock in the front of the building like that and try to turn in that area. And that seems to be a reasonable condition.
Even with a box truck, that's a really tricky dock to get into, and if somebody's caught up doing an 8-point turn right at the entrance to back into that dock, that could potentially prevent another truck from entering the lot. If they're kind of clogging up the entrance, doing this crazy, you know, if I was,
You're talking about movements of a box truck or van?
yeah, I don't know if you can see me, but if I was to
Yeah.
back my truck into here, coming from here, I'd probably loop around here and then back in. If I wanted to get to this dock, I'm gonna pull in here and it's going to be this, 4 or 5-point turn. You're then preventing somebody else from entering the lot for, 30 seconds or so.
Yeah, so I mean, we could do a turning template, but a box truck would pull in here, pull in and it just back out in one simple movement. Same here, pull in, utilize this 25-foot drive aisle and back up. There wouldn't be any need to circulate around the building really. But I'm happy to show that. That's just a 2-point movement. We can show that if the board.
It looks a
would like
little
to see it.
tricky.
I don't
We
think
can
there's
have
gonna
a
be
turn-
any, I don't
Yeah,
think
we
there'll
Ten
be
point
any.
for turning,
Yeah, that's
I mean,
easy.
yeah.
We can do that as part of the submission to peer review. That's an easy.
That's fine.
addition.
yeah.
Rob, anything else you want to add to peer review
Um,
besides that?
no, I think the scope was pretty in-depth, so we're gonna get a pretty good peer review on this. I guess just 2 points. I don't know if the board has any other questions, but just to kind of finish up. Something that you mentioned, Mr. Chair, was if we get to the point with conditions of approval. One thing that I think the board is gonna have to look at, and we can talk about it as we move forward with the applicant, is that, there is now a restriction on warehouses in Bellingham. And we're gonna wanna look at this. It sounds like the applicant, I understand what they're looking for to do, like a trades type business, which I've seen these a lot. These are popping up frequently. I think we just want to be cognizant to make sure that the conditions don't include any type of warehouse. Even though they're not allowed for zoning, it's still good just to have a little bit of, I guess, language in there.
And if I recall, we specifically asked the applicant.
Yeah, and I guess one item that I just want to bring up too is that I do know that this parcel is right now being marketed on LoopNet as warehouse space. So that's,
And through the chair, someone brought that to my attention. I clarified the applicant and that has since been updated. It shouldn't have been, because if that was not the applicant's intent, brokers do what brokers do.
I understand, yep.
But that's since been updated after that was brought to my attention, because that was not our position. And to that point, this building is considerably smaller than anything anybody could reasonably use for warehouse space in this current market. It's really not. We're looking to do that. We would be doing first of all, we need a much larger piece of property. But we would be designing this completely differently than we are right now with the 2 units, 2 docking bays. I mean, it's designed for a general industrial trades building. It's not designed for a warehouse. And, we can certainly accept that condition because that's not what we're looking to do. And the zoning now, as of last week, prohibits it anyway.
Sure, exactly. So that was just something I wanted to bring up
Yep.
in the public hearing. And then just the last is that we are going to need an extension deadline request for this, for the decision. So I would recommend, I assume that you're looking for a continuance
Yep.
tonight. So I would recommend to give the peer reviewer some time to review and then get that back to us. I would recommend a continuance. I would do June 27th.
Not enough time for peer review to that.
So let me ask this question, the continuance. And why would we not, knowing that this process would normally progress over several months after we get peer review back, be some back and forth, why wouldn't we ask for continuance to the end of the year and finish up earlier than that? We finish up earlier than that.
Well, this is a continuance to the next public hearing, not the
Next
extension.
meeting.
Yeah, not
Not the extension.
the
deadline.
extension.
Okay.
deadline.
When's
So
the extension deadline?
I was getting to
Thank you,
that.
sir.
But, okay, I want to also get to the public too.
Yeah, absolutely. You can get to, my recommendation would be for August 9th to get through to the end of the summer. That way we'll kind of get an idea of where we're at as far as the peer review. To answer your question, because I know that with the planning board submissions in the past, we've kind of had this situation where the applicant would present, the project would go to peer review, and we might have a meeting in between 3 different renditions of a peer review. Then we come to the end where it's been 3 months since the planning board has seen this application. We might have more comments, but the peer review is exhausted, and now the applicant's looking for an approval, and it's almost like the planning board, because they weren't in the loop, are kind of coming up with these things in the 11th hour.
No,
So that's why.
I'm not suggesting we don't push out the
Oh,
next
yeah.
meeting. What I'm saying
Yeah.
is that the decision deadline is something, let's be realistic on a decision deadline.
Correct.
We need the end of,
I just want to make sure that the line of communication
Yeah,
continues to stay open.
I
That's
don't
all.
know what the chairman's thoughts are on August, but.
I just want to open to the public first. Is there anyone here from the public has any comments? Sir? Yes, sir.
Jeff Prescott, 314 Maple Street. Just a question, Shane, I guess, where is the entrance is there now? Where does that fall in between the two shown on the map? I'm just curious to see where that's located.
You
Sure.
have it over
No.
the
Right
door,
in
Pat?
the middle?
It's right in the middle, yeah.
Right in the
The
middle.
existing gravel driveway is right here. You can see depicted
Okay.
with this hatching in the cleared area, so there's your entrances on either side.
And I would just make a comment, as far as that sight line coming over 495, that I know we've already got a closer one for D and D. It's closer to 495. I'd be very concerned coming over there and having a truck either pulling out or pulling in. I thought sightlines used to be, years ago, when we were at meetings like this, we were talking 400 feet, not 250. So it just,
We will
and
look
I
at
don't,
that.
that's 250 sounds kind of short to me. But, I mean, that would be a concern.
Yeah, on a road like this, 250 feet's probably about as long as any access driveway is off of Maple Street from me driving it over the last few years.
Anything else in the public? Any other comments? I want to thank you for staying late. And please keep on coming.
So I think
So now we need a motion to,
motion to continue to June 27th, and then the extension deadline, decision date would be August 9th. That works. And I just need a signature.
If I may, through the chair. Peer review, we're signed up, we've got a scope, we're ready to go.
Yep.
With this submission and with the additional truck turn template, we can get that fired off to the peer reviewer.
Exactly, we're ready to go. So we're just waiting for the revised plans.
Can I ask a question? Decision deadline was what day?
August 9th.
Which is the day after the meeting. Why wouldn't we just extend that out? If we're gonna be back once or twice after that, why wouldn't we just extend that out now? With the applicant?
Right.
What, right?
I have to, honestly, I have to check with my client. I'm not sure I got authority to extend it beyond August 9th.
Do you expect to be here after August now?
We certainly don't, no.
No. Okay. I think.
We're hoping that we can work with the peer review engineer, like, let's just say it takes a couple weeks to get our initial letter back. Our intent is to address every single comment they have, not come back to the board and argue over design-related comments or questions. So, my goal and my hope would be that by June 27th, we're presenting any updated and revised plans to the board, and we have a clean letter from the peer review engineer. Now, is that guaranteed? Of course not, but that's what I'm going to shoot for. So, just to let the board know.
Okay, that's highly unusual based upon previous experience sitting here, but.
Sure.
We have a client who is hot to try to get going on this thing, so we're not looking to go back and forth with the board 100 times on different iterations of this plan. But that's, our goal is to move on this thing.
So you'll get the plans to us ahead of time so that we can have time to review, which our deadline is, we're getting plans for that meeting would be when?
Week before,
The week before. So we're gonna have plans the week before.
off the top of my head, I'm not great at math. I think the 21st.
Yeah, and I mean, if they can't, then it'll get continued. There's no harm. If they want to get it done for August 9th, if they can't get it done for August 9th, we just extend the deadline again.
I would not be surprised if they're in July,
Yeah, so I see your point.
We've run into situations with COVID and other things where it's presented a problem, so, okay. If the applicant.
Entertain a motion.
on that, I'm okay with that.
You need, I'll
Continue.
move the motion with Robert's recommendations.
Okay,
Second.
any further discussion? All to the vote.
And aside.
Brian, I. Bill, I.
Bill,
Nick, I.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Robert.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
206 Mechanic Street.
Thanks, folks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Here we have some new faces today.
Sorry, the wait.
Thank you for waiting.
We have a couple copies of the presentation we have,
Thank you.
and it'll go on the screen as well.
Yeah, I'll pull it up.
Okay, cool. Looks longer than it's going to be.
Yeah, we can check.
I'll try you.
Yeah, it's on there.
Right. I think so.
Right, Josh Berman, with Marcus Partners, Howland LLC, on behalf of the applicant, joined by Cassie Norton, who's with Arco New England, our general contractor. Tonight, we're here to discuss, I believe, two open items. One, this is for 206 Mechanic Street, one being the welcome to Bellingham sign that's going at the front of the property, and then some facade upgrades that were missed prior during the construction period. So in the presentation, we presented a couple options for the welcome to Bellingham sign. I believe we're down to colors and stone selections. So we've come up with two different designs here. You want to go ahead and come over here. Yeah, we can go to option one. Oops, keep going. So yeah, here's the layout. That's been previously approved. The size of it is consistent with the decision that we have today. On the color option, so if you go to the slide. There you go. So we propose two different solutions here. One is basically a white, like a cream and a blue that matched the colors of the building today. So the lettering would be blue. We had the stone and then the kind of the trim area would match the color of the building. The second option is we went with more of a gray color and then the same blue as the building. So those are the two options. I believe there's been some feedback in prior meetings on the colors. Color charts have been they're dropped off and reviewed, so I think we're hopeful that we can get a decision on what the color of the sign what the board would like to see.
I just make a comment. I don't recall the color blue being called navy.
Form of indigo. It was indigo.
It was indigo.
It was a swatch that said indigo.
The indigo petite. That.
Is that the same one?
It's similar, yeah, because indigo batik is the color of the building. And if that's how you want to proceed, we can find an indigo batik to match this color.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. This part of the process, given the prominence of this building, and I know you guys weren't part of this. The appearance of this building was, we spent hours and hours talking about what is it gonna look like, the color, we're gonna have, make it at least aesthetically interesting in terms of depth and everything else. We're gonna have the sign, we're gonna position it the right way, it's gonna look nice, we're gonna try to make this ugly building as presentable as we possibly can. And I gotta say, this has been managed so poorly. I assume, maybe not you, I'm not blaming you, the messengers. But it's either wildly negligent or it's so negligent, it's almost intentional. Like this entire building can be constructed without these bump outs. That every time somebody comes before us now, it's like, well, maybe, okay, I can get that color. The last time we had a discussion about the wall, the next meeting was, we can bring in rock samples for you to look at. And the prior woman said, don't look at the colors on the paper, which is completely true. Look at these samples. So here we are looking at colors on paper because the print colors differently. This has got to stop. It really does. It's like, I don't know who's at fault, what happened, but I feel embarrassed for you guys. What are we gonna do to give us confidence that this most critical part of this building is being managed correctly? Like, I don't have any faith at all. And, I wanna see where the wall is actually gonna be staked out. I wanna see that, so there's no mistake, the wall's built and like, oh, sorry, we were looking for something else. This stuff needs to happen. Why hasn't it happened? I wasn't aware of the staking. I can speak to the building. That was a miss on our part from the decision into the construction document. So the bump outs and the facade was clearly a miss on, in the transition. So I can speak to that.
On that note, how are you fastening the bump outs to the building?
So it'll be
I need a cut sheet on that.
yeah, there's a detail in here at the back of the thing. Basically, it's a metal stud.
I understand that. I understand the ethos thing you're building.
Yeah.
It's the fastening to the concrete.
Yes. And we'll get to the bump outs, but the presentation that was made to us and what was part of the decision was that these bump outs would go around the entire building and there would be depth in all not the entire building, but the one on 140 and on Maple. Now we're looking at what proportionally is small areas now that are different from than what was contemplated. The corners were going to be bumped up. There was a whole discussion. I would encourage you to go back and watch. It's on YouTube. Watch the meeting. And come back to us with definitive, substantive. This is what we have. Look at this. This is what we want to do. We put the stakes in the ground. This is where it's going to go, because I don't want any more mistakes. No more mistakes. This was the most critical thing about putting this where it had to go. was let's just try to make it as aesthetically pleasing as we possibly can, and it's gone dreadfully wrong.
There was even discussion on the wall, and what color stones. And it, I mean, recently. And that's not something, I mean, we've done. Not something I want to get involved with more than once. And now this is like the third time, fourth time we've done it. So please look at the videos. I mean, the board has talked about this many times. No, it's your first time here. It's to the point where I know you're not gonna look at social media in Bellingham. They call your building the prison. Okay, and it wasn't designed that way. It wasn't, it's known as the prison. And I'm sure that's not something you want either. I'd encourage you to look at the last several videos.
So the sign,
I think Nick's gonna articulate something, I may have a concern with this while we're going in.
couple things, so the sign location, I completely agree, it has to be staked out. What makes the most sense to me is it's a welcome to Bellingham sign. So anybody traveling on Mechanic Street from Franklin,
That's fine.
yes, heading it towards, center of Bellingham, when they're sitting at that light, being welcome to Bellingham, that sight line has to have zero obstruction. So when you're parked at that traffic light, I encourage you to make this drive, sit at that traffic light, turn your head, whatever you're looking at, essentially should be where the sign is with zero obstructions. So, I mean, if that was staked out, I'm sure every board member would make that drive, sit at that traffic light and confirm that, yes, we're being welcome to Bellingham and we can see the sign. And then,
Including the numbers on the building. I mean, that's discussed in the videos. I mean, we'll go back and look at the videos.
The chief indicated where he wants to know.
And where was, did we have the final on that?
Yeah,
Because
it's
it
not
wasn't,
the end.
the numbers weren't, when we saw the numbers right above the signs, that was, it overshadowed the sign. So to me, it was like it was supposed to be on both entrances. If the
Correct.
chief is gone with that one.
Yes.
So having your building number outshadow the sign is not acceptable.
and then the neighboring wall, it has to be said, this is not what we want.
Correct.
This is a bad wall.
Yeah.
Right? So we don't want the mortar. We want a nice wall. We were told that it would likely be a veneer. Is that a veneer stone?
Yeah, so you've got two options. They both come from different queries.
Okay.
The first one is more, I don't know if you can flip on that.
Oh, yeah. Which one would be a more local stone?
They're both pretty local and I can get the name of the queries if you want for you.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's option one.
That's option one, correct?
And then for the stone itself, are these comparable in size or is one?
One's
Larger down?
larger than the other on site, but they would chip it down to make them small. And we have both samples on site as well, if you guys would like to drive by and see them in person.
We were told that samples were going to be presented at the next meeting.
Some of them are a little larger than the others. So it would have been a little heavy to bring in,
Okay.
but so I would invite you guys to come out to the site. I can bring them in if you would like.
Can I offer a suggestion?
Yeah.
Before we get into the nuts and details. It may be appropriate to do a site visit on some Saturday, once you've staked out the sign. Because I echo comments made by the board members. We have a lot of things that can obstruct the sign. Telephone pole, the base for the lights. So I think it's critical as Nick mentioned, that this be easily viewed coming from the counterfeit. This is gonna welcome people to Bellingham. This is something we hope to replicate down the road in North Bellingham as well. So that's why it's important to us. So perhaps we could agree on, certainly not this Saturday, but maybe a Saturday in early June, where you could stake it out, not to carry the boulders here. You have the boulders there, so you can look at what things look like, and then get a better perspective of how things will appear. Does that seem reasonable?
And then if you have pictures of walls that have been made with either one of these stones, that would be helpful. So we have an idea of what it'll look like.
Just looking at my,
So can I chime in for 1 second?
Sure.
Just so I will say that I think I'm a little ignorant to what has occurred to some of the previous meetings. I thought we were getting close, 'cause I was not at the last two, I believe. That was when I was transitioning off the board. But I guess I would say that probably from my standpoint, to figure out exactly where we're at is to keep the process moving and make sure that the board is content with what is presented. I think it would probably make sense to kind of figure out exactly what the board is looking for as far as the facade goes. And it sounds like for the sign at least, you'd like to look at the stone options, which makes sense, and you'd like to see the sign staked out, and I think it makes a lot of sense to do a site visit on a Saturday to take a look at these. So,
Just to clarify, I believe we had a gray stone
okay,
with gray stone on both sides of this Bellingham sign
okay,
intact. And I think that was all discussed in the previous, so looking at those stones, they don't look that great to me.
Well, I think we discussed matching the other side, but not in its quality, but in its appearance. Right? We want both walls to have a similar look. We don't want a different color than the one, whatever that is. I thought that was the conversation, but we don't want obviously the quality and the thickness of the. What do you call it?
The mortar.
oh, the mortar, how it's,
You just want much tighter.
But when I say watch the previous meetings, watch the meetings from April and May of 2023, when these things were discussed. And what the intention was, and there was promises made, and I think that's where we're coming from.
my viewpoint is, I want to echo what other members said. I want to replicate the sign for us. I don't want as much, I want, as you said, needs to be a lot tighter. With less gravel.
Can I, not to completely change the subject, but I understand there's been some progress made on the Maple Street Road and the queuing. And that was one of the major pluses of this site. And maybe we could have a 30-second, here's what we did, and here's where we stand, and I've heard there's a lot of good progress there that is a positive, and I'd like to go back to positive.
Yes, appreciate that, thanks. So we created a right-hand turn lane there. The work is complete.
It is complete now.
Yeah, they've got to do some finalized striping on it. But it should be, they had to wait 30 days after the pavement was put down, so only thing left to do is striping. I mean, obviously the building's not up and operational, so from a use standpoint, it's kind of not in the final use today, but the work is complete.
Yeah, but the queuing, there was a queuing issue there, and I think we extended, I forget how many feet that you guys extended back.
yeah.
How many? 230. 230 feet, which was a part of the benefit of
your facility on site, so it's great to hear that that is done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question on that. The egress on Maple Street itself. That is for coming out only?
I believe I have to go back and look at the decision, but I believe the decision was a right-hand turn only out of it. It didn't limit coming in and out. You just can't take a left onto that.
Yeah, your tractor trailer will run right over that island you put.
If they have to, that's why
Yeah,
it's
that's
curved
getting
that
right.
way.
So that's what I'm saying. So there'll be no taking a right coming down. Is how the flow pattern was shown to me. And they'd come in to the left-hand side and go out. What I'm seeing is the only way really tractor trailer's gonna maneuver. It's through the light and then come in that way and then come out.
I mean, on,
Well, mechanic
Mechanics.
enter into mechanic only. You're not gonna be able to. Enter in on Maple Street because I had trouble with the car just to swing it in there.
Well,
And I think that was the way it was designed.
yeah,
That was the.
it was,
Okay.
yeah,
So the flow though.
yeah, we were, the conversation I recall was that, yeah, we were trying to get the tractor trailers to just stand.
Exactly,
Try and keep them
Right,
off of
right.
Maple Street. They'll exit, they can exit out that way. That's
Yes,
the main way to
yes.
exit out to get back on four
There's
ninety-five.
plenty of room for
but
that.
taking it right
Right.
when you come out.
Correct,
So
and
coming westbound, you're entering on Mechanic Street.
yeah, and then.
That was our whole note.
Yep.
I think you
Yes,
accomplished that.
that
That
was
with
a
the
call.
curbing, that
Correct.
was the intent.
Yep.
That's what was said. Correct.
And I know just from my standpoint, I've been out on the site a few times. There's actually just today, I think. And I was out there too when they were paving the site and, you know, the landscaping is coming in really nicely. The rear area near the basin is, it's like a nice green carpet back there. It really has come in nicely. The landscaping looks good. You just added more landscaping along the frontage, actually, I think just in the last couple of days, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's, it really makes a noticeable difference. So it is shaping up and, you know, to your point, Phil, I know there's been a lot of stigma on social media about the site and how they've been calling it the prison and such. And I guess the only thing I will say to that is that, you know, I've been on construction sites regularly for the past 10 years, and I've never walked onto an active construction site and said, man, this looks good. I hope they stop. So, you know, you just gotta be patient. It's gonna be worse before it gets better, and that's just,
Yeah.
And we realize that.
yeah, no, I'm just stating that to, you know, anybody who watches the recording.
And on the inside, what are they just finishing up some painting and overspray and touch up and that type of stuff?
Correct.
So that's pretty much all completed.
Yeah, we have a building final tomorrow morning.
Okay, yeah.
And the pavement's done. We have some punch list work to do and at some point here we'll start office space on the
Yeah.
interior.
Now, on this, system here, the ethos system.
Yep.
I don't see, where does it show the actual fastening to the building?
So
Is it written?
the details in there, I'm not sure if it shows the
It doesn't show the fastening.
fastening, right?
I built them. I did this for a living. So it is showing no fastening. And I'd like if we could have put into the decision, the two cut sheets that came with the stove therm, is it called? All right, if you read on these, even down below, it says, require periodically cleaning to maintain appearance, repair to cracks and impact damages that may occur, recoating to enhance appearance of weather finish. Sealants and other components must be maintained to prevent water infiltration. So if we could have that put in so they maintain these, because it's not concrete. This is gonna change and fade and do all kinds of other stuff.
Put into what exactly?
Well, into
No
the decision.
I don't believe there's a decision being rendered to this. It's more of a.
Modification to. the-
Yeah. This, I thought these columns were in the original.
They were gonna be poured concrete.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. They're not gonna be now, but these are gonna have to be maintained. And I just wanna make the board aware of it. So down the road, you go, what happened to the column? It's falling apart. We're not gonna fix it at the town.
Was it a requirement that there was gonna be a maintenance O&M manual in this project? That's usually, was that part of the decision?
I don't know.
Well, the O and M plan is for the stormwater.
Yeah, this was an added after the fact because they didn't do what they were told in what we decided
Yeah, I'm
upon.
just thinking
was
there might
never
be an opportunity
put onto
to
the print.
update the O&M manual to account for something without having to make a new decision or something along those.
Yeah.
I don't know whether the easy way to do that is.
Yeah, this should come with the application of the column.
Yeah, and I think
There's gonna be an application for the columns now?
Yeah, they're gonna have to apply them to the building.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so when
Not planning board application.
No,
Application of the
Yeah,
process.
no.
Okay.
different terminology.
yeah, we're getting
Sorry.
more into building permit items and, we don't typically have an O and M plan for the building because
Yes.
if there's a column that is not structurally sound, now building department gets involved to make sure
Okay,
that's
that's
taken
fine,
care
you
of.
covered there.
How about the
Yeah,
landscaping plan? Is the landscaping plan in place at this point?
Well, the landscaping, I believe, is still currently being installed, because really, you're working towards where the sign is gonna go, right? That's kind of where you're leaving. Right now, that isn't installed because the sign needs to get figured out.
That's correct. The sign's got to get put in place and then we can finalize the landscaping that goes around it.
And so I think you want verification on the landscaping essentially. So there will be, when the time comes, there'll be a site walk with myself to take a look at that opposed to, or compared to the landscape plan. And then it's also going to be as built.
With the maturity of the trees and things like that, that were called out on, did you know that's not issues in the last couple meetings, in the last couple of months, it's come up again. That mature, whatever was called out on the plans, the maturity of the trees should be.
Caliper.
Yeah, and the caliper wasn't very substantial in the decision. And there's a reasoning for that, when it comes to landscape plans, and I know there's a push to get these mature trees installed on these sites, which I understand they're very expensive, number one, but that's not the planning board's issue. The issue with them is that their survival rate is really low. So what happens typically is you get a mature tree, and especially in a site like this where you're right next to, two busy roads, they don't really survive. So you get the first year during construction, they get installed, and they're told, the planning board or the department tells them, all right, you're going for your occupancy permit, you got a dead tree, go replace it. Then they replace it, then it dies again, and the occupancy permit's already been issued, and now you have a dead tree a year after that, which either gets ripped out or they put in a smaller tree that is actually going to survive, that has now just missed 2 growing seasons. That's kind of why you'll hear, I know landscape architects have come in front of us before to propose putting in the smaller trees. So once again, just something I wanted to share on the record if people are listening to this. I love the idea of mature trees, but they become an issue when they don't survive. So.
Can I just get back to the original reason we're here?
Yeah, that would be wonderful. I'm sorry.
The sign colors. These are new swatch names I've not seen. So Naval and Naval, we thought was indigo. Different names?
I don't know.
Okay,
about the
that's
name,
fair.
But
That's a fair answer.
but that's the color you would like?
Well, that's the color that we believe is on the building.
There was 3 swatches that literally came in front of us, and believe me, I don't want to look at swatches, but they did come in front of us with 3 of them, and there was one that, here it is, because the pictures that we had on the original decision and what was done were different, so then the discussion was like I said, it's in the videos. I don't know, Rob, if your office has a copy of the color.
I have the paint chip, so if you want, I will gladly, if you don't have them readily available, I can send them. Because I don't know.
It's just the indigo one, right? The
yeah.
other ones were.
So they're only.
I don't remember Divine.
you-
I would have
Please
remembered.
don't.
I would have remembered that color.
So the only
comment
comment I have to make, if this is a sign that would like to replicate in other areas of town, Does it necessarily have to match the lands?
What
Good
I would,
question.
I don't know the answer to that, but what I would suggest is, let's get the actual prints in.
Yeah.
And just.
That's right.
To deal with it down the road.
Sure.
Is the intent to match the building with
Yes.
indigo? Okay, so that's the color.
And the base color of the bill.
Okay, so the base color of the building and the blue for the lettering.
The creamish color, I believe.
Yeah, that's fine. So we have those colors.
No, I just want to be clear. Bring us a paint chip and say, this is the color that you want on the wall, or on the sign. That's what I would ask you to do.
Okay.
So, because I don't think we collectively know. And look at how we dress. We're not people that.
I just want to make sure it's clear
Yes,
what we're.
Nothing is clear. What is clear is nothing is clear. And you should confirm everything with us. Thank you.
What I'd like to do then is, I know you have a process to go through. We have a process to go through. I think we decided that may be appropriate to the site meeting. Have you mark up the plans? Perhaps we're looking at, maybe Saturday, June 8th. Or Saturday, June 1st. Whatever.
I have a copy of them first.
Okay. I can arrange my invitation so I can be around on the.
So just for that meeting, we will have the sign location marked out.
Yep.
The two different options for the stones
Yep.
and the two different paint color slots,
Yes.
on site.
Now, I'm gonna, step out here a little bit. Is it feasible? What is the, material that the sign is gonna be made of?
I believe it's vinyl, but I can confirm that.
Could we have a large swatch to see what it looks like? It's opposed to a paint chip? Could you
Yeah,
bring
we could do a
something?
paint up, we could do a paint, mock-up on site.
That'd be perfect, for those two colors. Does that address some of the concerns of the board?
And if you can bring, maybe some pictures of actual walls that have utilized that stone, that'd be helpful.
So that'll all be reviewed on site with whatever date we choose.
Correct.
Okay. Anyway,
Well,
we talked about,
Do
we talked
a
about.
site visit on June 8th.
More to come.
I'm sorry?
You have more?
Well, yeah, so that was just a sign. Can we talk about the bump outs
Sure.
and the direction on that?
Yep.
So I guess is the board, okay with the ethos bump outs as we have shown?
Yeah, that system's fine. That's Hall of Fame and Patriots Place was made out of.
Yep.
I built it, yeah, I know.
And we've done this in the past too, where we've modified the concrete, where we closed openings or, made them larger, we frame them back
And
in.
now, what are you gonna dye the top coat when it's applied? Right, so is it mixed right into the application or you spray it after?
Spray it.
Oh, okay.
So is there any plans to put these on the Mechanic Street side and on the corners?
So there wasn't, and our interpretation of the decision was it was calling out for these access panels. And that was our interpretation, that it was along this long wall, and I believe the decision said along, and I'm gonna get along the south elevation within these access panels. So that's why we had proposed this solution in these border areas along this elevation.
I could be wrong, but my memory is that the whiter sections actually were the colored areas were either recessed or the white areas were prominent, and there was a discussion about the front of the building as well.
It was their idea.
Yeah, it was there.
Build it.
Yeah, I agree. It was a mess during the construction.
Translations for sure.
Correct. Yeah, and we acknowledge that it was missed and we're trying to come up with a solution.
Yeah, that system there works fine, but I'm just not sure how you're gonna fasten it, doing the fact that it's not, you don't have a plate here and a plate here, you know, you're gonna have a plate there, but how are you gonna fasten them plates? Are you gonna use a TAPCon system? Is there a bracket system? That's the key to me, is to installing that.
Yeah, well, and we can have a detail, we can review with the building.
Yeah.
The building.
Yeah, I imagine, well, inspector would love to see it too.
What color will these?
The same blue as that's painted
Yeah.
today, they're just gonna be bumped
Right,
out like
identical.
9 to 10 inches off of the
Oh,
column.
so the existing blue striping will be,
So we went ahead and
Yes,
painted
just-
it to show what it is, now you're just gonna have a bump out,
Right.
and that's gonna be
And-
painted blue again.
What are those, 4 foot wide are they? Are those 2 foot panels on that?
They're a pretty
On the-
substantial width. It's
They're
more
at
than
least 4
feet. It's
Yeah.
definitely more than that.
Yeah, I didn't know what the,
Cause it has, there's two like saw cut grids in there.
Yeah.
And one of those grids is probably about 4 feet, so you're talking more like 8 to 10 feet for that strip, and there's
Yeah.
4 of them. And I know we went out, took a look at it when I think that was my first site visit a couple weeks ago, and it's nice, cause it's gonna also add symmetry to the front, that side on Maple Street, which is nice. It looked like it could really look good, so.
could you provide us a more, other than the small little elevation, can you provide a bigger elevation so we know what we're getting?
the height and width of the actual column.
And I would love to see it also on the front, on the mechanic side. And the street side.
I don't know if there's any columns out there,
I
is
was
there?
gonna say.
Just massive panels, right?
Yeah, that was the reason why we didn't extend it on
Yeah.
that side, because there aren't those.
And see, that's why I was thinking in my mind that the corners were always gonna be.
Yeah,
At least
that would have
the-
been a massive piece too, the 2 corners.
Yeah, because that's what at least that's how I interpreted the elevations that were presented, is the corners are gonna be, everything was in and out, in and out, in and out, and now it seems that we're reducing the in and out. So, it would be good to see more detail, as much detail as you can give us, just so we're all on the same page, there's no more question, we know what we're buying.
Okay, can I ask, is this something we would review on site as well, or do we need to come back before another public hearing?
I think there may be more of a meeting. It's up to you, you're the director.
Great. I mean, I think being on site, taking a look, I really think that the board would be able to make a decision based on being on site. I know taking a look at the blue panels when I was out there on site and seeing the landscaping, seeing the front of the site, you can really visualize it now that you have a constructed building. You're not looking at
Right.
renderings, which is nice. And you'll see the sheer size of what we're dealing with. So what I would recommend, definitely do the site visit. I think that I feel that the board will probably be able to really get a good definitive decision at that site visit. And if it makes sense, just from a public perspective, because this is a general discussion item, it's not a public hearing, but it would probably be good just to be transparent. I mean, I don't know if you guys have to come, but we can just give an update too, just so it's on file, recorded, and does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's go with that.
and after the meeting, if you do decide that, would be good to have another meeting, you can make the decision then. It's a general business item, we can add it as needed, so. But I think that the site visit's really gonna be able to get everybody to figure out what direction you need to go in.
Yeah, and like I said, and give us a more bigger elevation, just don't give me this, if you can, not just the blown up, but something that gives us more tangible. We are going to do this, you know what I mean? Following?
I'm not clear on what.
I'm not comfortable looking at this and looking at that. I don't know what this is gonna look like. You know what I mean? Looking at the, doesn't give me any comfort based on the experience that we've had to date. I would love to see something.
Larger image.
Larger and as much detail as possible.
So you like to see the bottom portion of the street enlarged.
Yeah, I'm not telling you what to do, or I don't know. But this doesn't give me comfort that in 3 meetings from now, we're gonna say, well, the picture kind of looks like this and everybody's on the wrong page. I wanna feel comfortable of what we're getting, and going to the site would be helpful. But seeing a more detailed elevation would be helpful to me.
Could I go ahead, say something? Would it make sense for us to do one of these columns prior to the site visit on the
So
8th?
that'd be tremendous.
Perfect. And then we can look at it in the field and we can all agree and we can.
Or mock up
continue doing
exactly.
this. I mean, that's an option, and then we can look at it in the field.
I thought that was an unrealistic ask, to be honest.
No, listen, I admit this has been a rocky road. I understand how important this is to the town, given everything that's going on. So we're here to make this right. We want to get this done, get through this so everybody can move on. So, but we understand it's been a rocky road.
I don't know if I'm gonna be invited to this.
You will.
Yeah, and then if you would like, I can, while we're on site, I'll go through these actual, how it's built, sizes and everything, if you want.
Say that it's a public meeting.
All right, and explain it all to you.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so do we block in a date?
Yeah, June 8th, is that the date that you're looking at?
Yeah, whatever time,
10 o'clock, what can you, how far are you coming from?
ways away, so.
How far away?
About an hour and a half,
What's convenient for you on a Saturday?
10 a.m.
Fine.
Is 9 working days enough time to install one of those?
So we have to order the
Holiday.
studs. Yeah, the studs take about a week to get to the site and then we're gonna have to install, but it's, I can make a call after this.
That's
I know.
unrealistic.
It'll
Can
be
you
tight,
give us a
but-
day or two and then we'll respond with Rob? I'd like this to be put in place. If we need to push it a week, I'd rather do that and just. be
Fine,
able to knock
same
it.
here. So I
Yeah,
think.
so let us, if we
We
can.
look at the 8th.
Okay, let us.
We'll look at the 15th, and then,
Yeah, I'm,
is that fair?
Yeah, let us.
Locked up.
Yeah, we want it done, mocked up, painted, and then
Okay.
we walk out, look at it, make sure the sign's in place. It's staked out. We'll have the stone on site. We'll get the pictures and.
Could you let Rob know the day you're doing the market? They're gonna start the mock-up. And I'd like to figure right now.
So I would entertain a motion for a meeting on site for June 8th as the primary date, with a backup date of June 15th, both times at 10 o'clock, based on availability of the applicant to complete certain tasks. Is that?
Do you want to add anything?
I was gonna recommend instead of June 8th, why don't you just push it to June 15th, give them time to do the mock-up.
Okay.
We have a meeting June 13th, so we'll definitely be in contact before then. If you gotta push it back another day,
Okay.
we can make the definitive decision at the meeting while we're here in forum. Does that work?
That was.
Okay, so June
Perfect.
13th, 10
Great
a.m.
idea.
You mean June 15th, June 12th?
June 15th, sorry, yeah, June 13th is the meeting. Yeah, June 15th.
Anything else, sir? I want to thank you for cooperating with us, listening to us. You know, it's been a long night. It's been a long process,
Thank you, guys.
but I think we're at the end, the 5-yard line.
Appreciate that. Thank you guys for working with us.
Thank you, appreciate it.
We need to vote. I'll so move the motion with Rob's,
June 15th.
date.
Have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Call for the
Then
vote.
side.
Bill on.
Nick, guys.
The motion passes now. Come on down.
Is that?
Sorry, Steve. Thought it was gonna be a quick one. Sorry.
This is a guy that came prepared.
Yeah.
You know,
Actual thing.
you know, I'm glad with you. I made a special trip. I said, this is ridiculous. I can't walk into a meeting with this looking thing and after that meeting, I'm so glad I went back and got it, you know? So this is the thing, this is the light. I'm Steve Benson, Bungay Brook Developments. Thank you for coming back, sir. Thank you. It's been a while since I've been here. It's nice to see you guys again. So my electrician, and we've done this in 2 projects now, one in North Attleboro, one in Boylston. We've installed these lights in lieu of the conventional street lights that we would put up, and we would run the conduit and the piping and all do it. So my understandings are a little bit more expensive to buy. There's a savings in the installation. And there's a huge savings over time for the owners, which in this case, it's not the town of Bellingham, it's the condominium association. So it doesn't really affect the town that much on the cost, but the residents, and that's important to all of us. It's important to me and you that, so this, according to my electrician's calculations, it's gonna be on for 6,500 hours a year. It's a photo sensor, so it's on all night long. And it burns 3 watts, and if you add those watts, it's 28 million watts, and you know, 15 cents a watt. So it's gonna save the homeowners $4,200 a year, which is a good number, 4,200. So my understanding is that the actual unit that we're gonna use is larger than this, and it's gonna be black. So I can push this button if you want, but. What's that?
Solar power too.
Yeah. So it's, they're LED lights and solar panel on the top and lighting on the back, and it shoots straight down. So this is the wave of the future. Everyone that sees it thinks it's a good idea, and hopefully you feel the same way. So.
Would you mind showing us upside down, turned on? You mentioned that it shoots straight down. Feel free to demonstrate that.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Wow, so
Nice.
that's like literally,
Oh, yeah.
That's, yeah, I can't see it, so it's perfect.
yeah.
What's the life expectancy of that gizmo?
I don't know.
Some of these last a long time.
It does include a battery too, so if there's no light, it'll go. That's really my question. 3 or 4 days, I forgot to mention that, it'll go 3 or 4 days without any solar,
Yeah.
adherence, so. And how much snow? Snow?
State will never.
I'm sorry?
I said the state would never even buy those and install them.
Well, snow would be a problem, for sure, you know, it's big snow, but typically this is black, so it would melt fairly quick anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's much of an issue. But in any event, I didn't even realize that we would have to come back here to ask for approval for this, but my electrician. I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
My electrician felt that we should, so he'd asked me to come and ask for a substitution in this lighting. I'm not sure if we even got permission of the other lighting, but maybe we did. It was probably on the lighting plan, so. It was. Yeah, so that's the purpose of me coming here tonight.
Yeah.
Any questions,
Basic down, like.
Same poles before? It's all different poles too. They're a little thinner because this is a smaller, lighter fixture.
I guess the life expectancy question, I guess, is relevant. If they fail, the homeowners association's gonna have to pay for those.
Any kind of light is gonna fail anyways.
Yeah, but that, I guess I was gonna compare it to a normal typical situation.
I can't answer that, I'm sorry, but it looks, if you look here, it just unscrews with these 2 bolts right here and pop this right off and pop a new one on. It's actually probably easier to change than a light bulb.
It'll never be the town's problem.
It'll never be the town's problem, yeah, and it might be more expensive.
No, they're saving a lot of money with this.
The only
Replacement costs too?
Yeah, I'm sure.
the
The
only
price,
thing,
the price of this stuff continues to drop down, so it's not as expensive as it was, 5 years ago.
It's on the homeowners association, so.
to the extent that this has a safety component, That's my only reservation, and it's just that,
Dark sky compliant.
no, but if they don't. This, if the fire trucks are coming and they're, and, these light. That's my only real
I
reservation.
still think they're gonna be the same height as your other lights.
Yeah.
So it won't be with fire trucks. There's a battery, so if we don't have any sun,
Yeah.
For 4
If we
days,
go on
it's gonna be
even
miserable
power.
4 days.
what the other?
No, I was just speaking out loud that if the power goes out, at least those still stay on.
Yep,
From a public safety point of view, is there any? More of an unknown than replacement type of thing? What would be the mechanism?
Storage component?
Is there a mechanism to?
What about that?
Well,
Have a large battery storage component or?
It says 4 days batteries, that's all I know. I don't know the size of the battery, but it says 4 days.
Off sunlight, darkness, automatic.
It's a photo sensor, so it's on every night.
I probably tested on
Yes,
or something approaching,
yes.
and there's no overflow. It's straight to.
Right.
So we have to vote on
I think
Rob
has it.
it?
The whole thing about streetlights is it's about 50-50. I mean, I have a house in Cape Cod and we have no lighting at all and it's really dark there. And I love it. And I look in the sky and I can see everything and I say, and I have a house here in Central Mass and it's lit up like and some people love it like that. They love all the lighting. But I prefer my house in Cape Cod when it's dark and it just looks much nicer. But that's me. Everyone's, it's 50-50. If you sat down in a room with the condo association, half the people want it dark and half the people want it lit right up like their house.
I was asking on the side here, so from a public safety point of view, if the one thing we don't know is life expectancy, so if the life expectancy was dramatically low, what would be the mechanism from a public safety view from the condo association or from, is there a public safety issue that I don't.
You bring up a good point, and I haven't heard any input from public safety on this, and it probably would be good to just maybe run this by them and maybe DPW as well. Just as, well, DPW is not gonna be interested because this is off-site action.
Yeah, I guess I didn't want to extend it. So for example, we don't know the life expectancy,
So can I say one thing about that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Interrupt you. That we did install these 2 years ago in North Attleboro and so far we have zero failures.
Okay, and it's up to the condo association to
Yeah.
replace them too. So, I mean, it's a private site, so.
That's what I was gonna say, that they're used for private only.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you would like to run this by public safety, I can, but I don't envision, because you had the photometrics plan and the lighting plan presented previously, and it
Yes.
looks like that's dark sky compliant, like you mentioned. I would imagine so with being a solar light and being eco-friendly, they probably would market it as dark sky compliant.
That's the trend.
I'm impressed, Phil. You're bringing up Rawls rates and dark sky compliance. And not tonight, but you have in the past.
Oh, my.
So your dictionary is
My
getting pretty
director
good.
is,
Yeah.
I'm okay.
I have no concerns.
I don't even know.
I think it's cool. Yeah. And thank you for bringing that in. That's
Yeah,
awesome to
appreciate
actually
it.
visualize.
I
it.
never
I'm
forget
kind of
that.
brought it into.
Yeah.
That's hearing.
Sound good?
Do we need to make a motion? Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. It's great to see you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry for the wait,
No,
Steve.
it's okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for the demonstration.
When are you installing those?
I think right away, I mean, we've got some of those poles up there now. We have 16 residents down there, so we want to continue. Yeah. I can report back if you want, when they're gonna be installed.
I just like to see them personally.
Yeah, it'll be real soon.
Yeah,
It'll be real soon.
thank you.
Give us the end of the month.
All right, good enough.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah.
Rob, can you bring us up to date on the procedure rules?
Yeah, so I'll be, with these last two discussion items, I'll be very quick. I know it's been a long night. So I really wanted to just bring this to your attention because this is actually going to be on the June 13th agenda because it has to actually be a public hearing, posted as one. But basically, I believe it was either in your Dropbox or emailed to you. But we need to be in compliance with the EPA MS4 permit, which is basically the town-wide stormwater controls. We have a permit through EPA. We are currently not in compliance with that.
Those are fairly new rules too, weren't they? In the
They-
last 5 years?
They just adopted new, so it's been in place for a little while, but they just adopted new rules and we're not in compliance with them. Our stormwater regs are actually in the planning board procedural rules, not in our zoning bylaws. So our zoning bylaws basically refer to our procedural rules. Those need to be updated. So I'm going to just share the screen really quickly to show you for the next meeting, if you want to review this info. You bear with me for a moment. This document that we'll discuss on the 13th, it's marked up and it actually has the edit tracking on, so the blue lines is what has changed. So I wanted to give this to you because it's very
God bless you.
easy to tell what is getting changed. So if you have a moment to review this info before June 13th, we're gonna have our consultant here from Ty and Bond, who actually helped draft these. I'm very familiar with this stuff because this is what I did before coming to the town, but we'll be able to answer any questions, and essentially what's going to be asked is the board to vote on adopting these changes on the June 13th meeting. We can push it back, but we basically we're not really up against the clock. The EPA has basically told us that we need to update these sooner rather than later, or they might take enforcement. So we don't want that. Yeah, and we're on the 1 yard line. It's just, we gotta present it to the board, make sure if you have any questions or comments, we'll go through it all with the consultant on the 13th.
That's fine.
Okay, so that's that.
Okay, McKay, ma'am, do you have any questions?
I do, but nothing that I think needs to be on the record. So I just wanted some clarity around the project.
I'm sorry,
I just wanted clarity around the project,
which one?
306 Maple.
Okay,
So,
Okay.
But I don't think it's anything that needs to be part of the meeting.
okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you for staying for all of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to ignore you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
MBTA review.
The MBTA overview, I had a very quick presentation, which I can hold off on that for another time
Okay.
unless people are very interested in it. It's pretty late, so that we can go to another time. Just to kind of give you an overview, but
Okay, we have one last thing to do before we adjourn.
yes.
So tonight, you
Okay.
actually gave a perfect example of the value that you brought to the board over the last, since I've been sitting around. Tonight, when you can talk to an applicant, somebody who's in the construction field and come from the experienced position. So I want to thank you personally, and I want to what you've educated me on. I've heard you talk about ledge and all sorts of other things. Right? Well, that's him.
Not him.
That's him.
That's
He's a
him.
ledge on a couple of the topics, but formally, thank you from me. But no, I will speak for all of the town of Bellingham, for the contact and you as well.
Thank you for all you've done for the town, and I appreciate you being a mentor to me in the last couple of years and you picked a good time of the year to wrap up and head to the beach, so hope you enjoy your summer and retirement as well.
It's been my distinct pleasure and honor to serve with you on the board. You are an honorable man, a decent man. You're a funny guy. You always have mints, and you will be missed. And I've always respected your opinion. You're a man of few words, but when you speak, it's substantive. And thank you for everything that you did for us and for the town.
Thank you. I'm gonna try to do something, I'm trying to be brief, which I'm gonna great at. Past 9 years, 10 years. I've known you now for 10 years. I've known you before you got on the board. Because you were a great friend. You've been a huge asset to the board, a huge asset to the town. I think you've left your impression on the town. I think the projects that we've worked on, you've improved based on your knowledge of construction, the pointed questions you asked, the discussions you've generated. And I think it goes to echo the depth of this board, where we all bring our strengths to the board. And I think the town appreciates it. I know the applicants know that you, like other board members, take this job very seriously. I look out for the interests of the town. And you'll be missed.
Thank you.
I can't thank you enough.
It's been an honor and a pleasure working with all of you people. I mean, it's been an honor for me just to represent the town. And I thought when they asked me to actually run for this position that I might bring some value to the board. And I must say, I was amazed at how knowledgeable the other members of this board are. As a board, to me, I've been on a lot of boards, and I'll tell you, this is one of the best boards I've ever been on. Knowledgeable as you people, you come and you take your job seriously. And I just want to thank the town of Bellingham for letting me actually sit in this seat for the people that voted for me. And whoever fills this seat, I just want to make sure that they know one thing or two things, that when you sit here and you make a decision, it's about the entire town, not just a portion of a town. When the project's over here, you're not just voting for them in this round. It affects every taxpayer in this town, everything we decide on. And just keep that in mind, and just remember one thing, that the biggest people are affected by this, by decisions we make, are the seniors in the town. Their pay never goes, well, most of them don't, they're fixed income. And it affects them the most, and I just hate to see the town eventually grow to where it taxes the elderly people right out of town. That's always been my concern, and that's why I've made the decisions I have. And I just want to thank you all. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
My hat's off to you, my friend.
Tip of it.
You want to lead us out?
Good night, Bellingham. Dennis out.
Wait, no, make a motion.
You want to kill the
Yeah.
speed and the.
Yeah.
It's good.